All right. So we are on air. And while you're getting yourself prepped there, I have something I need to share with you. And when I read this today, I was just blown away.
Okay.
And maybe we should start the recording first too. But I was just blown away by this. I could not believe what I was seeing, and I I will no, I'm not going to spoil the surprise. I'll
No,
wait till
let's
we
lead
start.
let's lead with the
Yeah,
show on this. I'm excited.
yeah. Okay, all right, cool. So, all right,
There we go.
all right. You ready for? I'm going to start recording on my end.
With Jason and George, a show about all things beer and beer making. Gentlemen, please broadcast responsibly.
Oh, that's how you've done that? Okay. I never knew you just holding your headphones up to this so I could hear what was going
Every
on.
single time. Yeah, now the secret's out because now you can see me. That's how you've been enjoying this intro track this whole time.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, no, I really enjoy that. So,
Welcome to A Nice Place to Brew. I'm Jason.
and I'm George.
All right. It is
Yeah.
time of this recording
Oh,
is Thursday evening. This is the last Thursday of April. We have plowed through weekly shows for the entire month of April, and this has been huge. So we
yeah,
made
I've
it all
really
the way
enjoyed
through.
this.
Yeah. Oh man, honestly, this went so much better than I ever anticipated that it would. I'm excited every week to do this. This has been fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a good time. And I know, and we're going to get to the topic of odd or, in my case, somewhat tragic Brewday stories.
Oh,
But
I got tragedy in mind too.
you got tragedy in yours?
We
Okay.
today's going to
So,
be a whirlwind of emotions. We're going to have
oh,
funny.
it's,
We're going to have sad. We're going to have why the hell would you ever do that?
yeah,
This is
I've
going to be
got one of those.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to be all over the board. Anyways, before we get into things, what are you drinking tonight, sir?
Oh, yeah. So, all right. I've got two. So I'm
All
going to start with
right.
this one. It is called Chapoing or Schlapoing. I don't know how to pronounce it, but this is a mango s'more India Pale Ale brewed with marshmallows, graham cracker, salt, and lactose sugar with mango and vanilla bean added. So, if you want to talk about there's a lot going on, there's a lot going on.
I'm getting flashbacks of that chai beer that I had on the last show.
Well, this is another Hannah special, so we'll see how it goes. And then I've
What
got
what
another
what
one.
what brewery made that?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me take a look. Omnipolo?
Where are they out of?
They are out of. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. Distributed. Well, that's what it's distributed. It's made by Omnipolo. It was. Looks like it was contract brewed with Dorchester Brewing Company out of Boston, Massachusetts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
but it was made for Omnipolo, so it's a contract brew situation. So
Good
yeah,
deal.
looks like Boston. And then
Boston.
I've got another one because that one's kind of small. And this is a sake style saison, still water
Wow.
extra dry. Yeah, yeah,
Sake style saison. That sounds
uh-huh.
fantastic.
Yeah, we'll see.
Let me show
So,
mine off now. We have a little brewery here in the Midwest called Bell's.
oh
I'm sure you've
yeah,
heard of them. And this is one of their flagship beers. This is Oberon.
good old Oberon.
Yep, which is a American wheat ale. I have to admit that this has been in my fridge for quite some time, so I'm not sure this is going to be in tip-top shape tonight, but I'm going to give it a whirl.
Okay.
I am on a bit of a mission to clear out some of my fridge beers, which there's a pretty fair amount of those. So making progress though. So, anyways, George, right before we got into recording, teased a story that I'm on the edge of my seat for.
I did, and I would get to that in just 1 second. I just did change one option here.
Okay.
Oh, dang it. All right, sorry. Okay. Yeah, my recording wasn't cooperating there for a second. So, yeah, I did. And so I'm kind of resurrecting our Twitter account a little bit. I want to try to do a little bit more with that, be able to get this information out to you guys. And I found an article that exemplifies the term fake news in a way that I can't even describe. So I'm going to share this with you. And I read through it just to make sure I wasn't, misrepresenting what this dude was saying. And I don't think that's the case. This guy, unironically, came up with, quote, the official domestic beer power ratings.
Oh, good Lord.
And he did this based on a continuum of chuggability and taste. And again, unironically, came up with the number one most chuggable, best tasting beer, domestic beer, is Miller High Life. Number two is Bud Light, Rolling Rock, and then finally something that is like verging on a craft beer. We talked about it before, is Yingling.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
it took Miller High Life. I mean, I got nothing against Miller High Life, but
Miller High Life has got to be a sponsor of the LA Times. That's all I got. That's all I got to say. I mean, LA is not short of craft breweries. I'll tell you that right now. There's no shortage of them.
No,
they're not limited
sure.
to this stuff that they've got in this article.
Yeah, and so at the end of the ratings, I'm not gonna disagree with his assessment that maybe Bud Light Orange is like the worst beer, the worst domestic beer. I'm not going to disagree with his assessment there, but on the upper end of the scale, I don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Fake news and big company money.
Oh, yeah.
That's my take on it.
I'm with you. Yeah. That was, I read that and I was like, I don't even know what to do with that information. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, so like I said, I'm kind of re-upping our Twitter account. I've run into a few great people, and I've actually run into a situation that I can't quite explain. So maybe somebody out there can help me with this. There seems to be like, okay, so I was using the hashtag homebrew because I kind of figured that would be a good one for, enthusiasts like us, right? Sure. So then I searched the hashtag homebrew to like maybe retweet some things and take a look at some, and I saw a decent amount of people making beer and coffee and, homebrewing, things like that. But there seems to be a correlation between the tag homebrew and Dungeons and Dragons. Now, I have absolutely no problem with this. I love Dungeons and Dragons. I have a good time with it.
A lot of people do.
I just do not understand why this is the case. And so if anybody's out there can tell me what is the connection between D&D and the hashtag homebrew, I would love to understand that better.
Huh.
Yeah.
Never being a D&D guy, I've got nothing to contribute on that.
Yeah. Huh. So, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and try this. What was it called again? Oh, shit. Hang on.
Spill?
Spill.
Oh, no.
Hang on.
While George is cleaning up a little spill, I must say that Oberon here by Bell's holds up remarkably well. I'm not prepared to admit how long this beer has been in my fridge. It's longer than I'm proud of, but yeah, this held up well, and weather's warming up here in the Midwest in late April, so this is tasting pretty good.
The Oberon is still living up to its history.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
good.
it's holding up sufficiently well.
Okay, so beer on a laptop is never a good thing, but
It's not.
I think I have saved that sufficiently. So yes, I'm going to try this Sploing. I'm calling it. Okay.
Can you say again what the what all's in it? It was mangoes. Oh, you're tasting.
Yeah, 1 second. Ah, damn it. Sorry, technical difficulties, guys.
I thought George was meditating on that first sip of his beer.
My Reaper is very mad at me.
And with my first sip, I reach my Nirvana state.
Yeah, reach my Nirvana. Yeah.
Oh.
No, it's not that good. But it is okay. So Sploing is mango s'more India Pale Ale, brewed with marshmallows, graham crackers, salt, lactose sugar, with mango and vanilla added. I'm
God,
guessing
that is
secondary
so much.
editions.
That is so much.
So much going on. You know, and I've heard that adding mango is kind of a new, I mean, not mango, but marshmallow is kind of a new trend going on right now.
Okay.
And I kind of see where they're going with it. It's definitely an interesting flavor. I can definitely taste the sweetness of that. And I think that's having to do with that and with the lactose, if I had to guess.
That's all non-fermentable sugar. So yeah, you'd definitely be catching a lot of that.
Yeah. So, unfortunately,
Is
Jason,
that coming through the strongest? Like stronger than the mango and the other flavors?
cannot.
Is it Reaper that's the problem?
Yeah, Reaper's a problem. I can't. I'm having trouble typing into. Hang on. Oh, my keyboard's not cooperating. Nuts. Jason, my keyboard's not cooperating with me.
So
I don't have a.
are you on a docking station?
No, I have my. I don't want to reboot, but this is like a situation where a reboot might do the trick if that is the problem.
Okay. All right. Go ahead and reboot.
Yeah, but I'm gonna lose the live show if I do. Oh, actually, I don't know if I will.
We'll just have to relaunch. We'll just have to relaunch it.
Well,
Oh,
if you're still in it, it may stick around.
Yeah, I guess it's worth a shot.
All right. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll be back in a bit.
We got a lot to talk about on today's show. I almost feel like I should maybe tell one of. You know what? with George not here. I'm not going to be so mean. You know what? I've got plenty of Brewday stories that involve George and some some embarrassing moments for the both of us. There's a wide array on both sides of it, and it just wouldn't be as much fun to tell one of those without George being present. So I guess I can't do that. I guess I'll tell one Brewday story. This won't be one of the top ones, but one of the Brewdays that did stand out in my mind when I was putting today's list together was a double IPA Brewday that I did in December of 2017. It was another garage Brewday with a temperature of about 25. It was a Brewday that lasted 7 hours, start to finish. I did not have a space heater. I had a brew partner for only about 2 hours of the Brewday, so I did the entire Brewday from boil to cool down to clean up, all single-handedly, which I didn't think that I could do, but I got through it, and I was, oh man, that was a full day. Let me tell you, that Brewday start to finish, that was more than just than a full day for a brewer. A great day though, and I'll tell you, I was very proud of that double IPA. So much so that the keg did not last very long. So, what else about that Brewday? What else? Yeah, doing cleanup in the outside elements when it's 26 degrees is not fun. I've found my way to better equipment and better processes since then. Oh, hey, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, look who's back.
Your audio just kicked on about 5 seconds after your video came on.
Oh, jeez. I figured out what happened. Apparently, in my hasten to clean up my keyboard, I locked my Alt key on. And so everything I was typing, it was trying to do Alt something, so everything's back online.
All right. Good deal.
All right, good. Sorry about that. All right.
It's all good.
Yeah. So anyway,
we left off at the Dungeons and Dragons story.
Right. What is it? I still don't understand how that's connected to Dungeons and Dragons. Again, not complaining, but it's a curiosity to me. So
let's put that out on our Facebook page. Let's see what kind of feedback we get. We can do that while we're here on the recording.
We certainly can.
It can take 2 seconds. If you're not on our Facebook page, you really ought to be. Check us out on Facebook at Nice Place to Brew. We also post pictures on Instagram at A Nice Place to Brew. Come check us out. Give us a like. Keep in touch with us.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm resurrecting our Twitter account, which is also a Nice Place to Brew. So feel free to drop me a line there. Trying to any interesting homebrew setups, or I've encountered a couple people that's their first homebrew, and it's been interesting hearing their stories. So feel free to drop me a line on that.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah. So
ready to talk about Brewday stories?
I am. You want to start?
Right. I can. Sure. All right. So I've got 3 categories, or I should say, these are these 3 stories that I've got today are, how do I say? They reflect certain time periods of my evolution as a brewer and also our time together brewing. So today I'll start with the first story, and the theme of this story is going to be Brewday injuries. And we're going back to our first, I think you know where I'm going with this. So we're going back to George and I's first brewing location, which was his old house on Main Street. Not his last house here in Illinois, but the one before that. This was the site of our first ever brew days, and we brewed on a monthly basis in George's backyard for 2 years.
Yeah,
Maybe
2.5 years. Yeah.
yeah. So, anyways, I guess the lesson from this story is take appropriate precautions
Hmm.
when you're doing things on brew day. Now, George and I did not have ideal processes at that point. I mean, heck, we were still learning. We still had, a lot of introductory equipment that we were working on. And part of the amateur nature showed itself in our cool down process. Now, George was fortunate enough to have a utility sink in his basement, but
Hmm.
we were not brewing in his basement. We were brewing in his backyard. So our genius minds told us, okay, here's the proper process. We will boil outside, then we will bring said boiling beer after the end of the boil downstairs from backyard to said basement, and then we'll cool it with an immersion chiller from a utility sink. What could possibly go wrong? Well,
Besides
George's ankle tells the
everything.
story.
The funny part is this is my first story too,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah, and I still have all the evidence.
I'm
But
sure.
keep going, keep going.
Oh, gee. Are you going to show it on camera?
No, I don't think it's. I'm just looking to see how visible it still is, but keep going.
Oh, okay. But anyways, to George's credit, George did not even acknowledge that something was wrong until the following day, when apparently, I guess, his ankle hurt so badly that he had to explain to his wife what happened. And lo and behold, George ended up at a doctor's office later on. And a couple days later, I see George and his ankle is all bandaged up. And he's like, yeah, you remember that little spill that we had post-boil? I'm like, yeah.
I do.
Well,
Yeah.
here's the evidence right here.
So you didn't actually say what actually caused it, because it wasn't what you would think. It wasn't us carrying it down, and we spilled some of this boiling liquid, and it hit my leg, and the sugary wort liquid, if it does, hit exposed skin, it's like napalm. It's hard to get off. It's really
Yeah.
painful. But what actually happened here was, and this is a cautionary tale to check your equipment before you start, is the immersion chiller had a line coming off of it, and it was regular low temp line. Well, apparently enough hot liquid had traveled through the immersion chiller and through these lines that it burst.
Yeah.
And that is what, so all of a sudden the nice cool liquid coming out of my utility sink going through the immersion chiller came out near boiling because we had just started, burst that line and shot near boiling liquid right on my ankle.
Yep.
And yeah, that took forever to heal up.
So
And I
much so
definitely
that there's still evidence right there.
I definitely still have a scar associated with it, but you know what they say, chicks dig scars.
Would your wife agree?
I don't know, maybe.
Oh man. Okay, well
Yeah.
that's my first story there. George.
Oh man.
Yeah. Lesson is, again, take proper precautions. Don't get hurt. Do whatever it takes to not get hurt. Just make sure you're covered.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
make sure you have medical insurance too.
Thankfully, I did have that.
This is a PSA.
Yeah, that was actually my first story too, and man, I'll never forget that day. And since then, I'll tell you what, I have definitely made sure that all the connections in my anything that's going to be running liquid is good before I start. That way, nothing like that happens again. Yeah,
Right thing to be. Right way to be.
Yeah, for sure.
One similar injury story, and our friends at Metal Monkey Brewing have been on the show twice, and if and when they come on the show again, and Jason and Dan, you're welcome on the show absolutely anytime. Jason has an unbelievable story of messing up his knee on site.
Oh,
there at
yeah?
Metal Monkey. Oh man, yeah.
I can imagine they.
I won't talk any further, and I'll give Jason the chance to come on the show and tell that whole story. But oh my god, it's
Yeah.
wild. It's wild.
Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah. All right. So, so yeah, that my I guess second story is, is along the a similar line of remember to check your equipment and check your profile and everything, because I was making, this is the first time I made my beer that I called a black hole, which is my 80 SRM beer. And I was making a imperial stout all out of grain, no sugar adjuncts, no DME, all out of grain to kick up to the right original gravity, which was almost 11 something,
Nice.
Yeah, no, it was an aggressive thing, and it turned out really well the first time, and then not so great the second time. I ended up chucking that. But what happened the first time was I did not pay attention to the fact that my mash tun not big enough. Um, I have a 10-gallon mash tun, and I needed about a 12, 13-gallon mash tun. So what I had to do, while I was mashing, when I went to put in my second infusion, I had to transfer it to another metal mash tun that I have that we
Just to have enough space for it.
just to have enough space for it. It
Yeah.
meant that I had to quickly adjust the water amount and temperature and everything to make sure that I could, still hit the temperature that I needed to, and everything. So that was a mad scramble to make that happen.
At this point, I really want to refer all of our listeners to the last episode, episode 31. I talked on that episode about building a custom sized or I should say a custom mash tun based on one that has a larger size. George and I are both limited by 10-gallon containers, which we use for mash tuns. And if your grain bill is too high, hey, you only got so much room. So you find yourself in the exact position that George was. You end up sacrificing a sparge, throwing off all the numbers as far as to what your water additions are. It's not a way to brew.
Well, or you end up
it's not a nice place to brew.
It's not a nice place to brew. Or the other option, you end up, and this is what I was doing for a little while when I, tried to recreate it. When I went to recreate it, was shoot for a 3-gallon batch instead of a 5-gallon batch.
That's an option, yeah.
But if you really like the beer and if you have the opportunity to do it, then you want to be able to do that full 5-gallon batch. So,
of course.
it's one of those things that it's just like, I can't brew what I want to because of the limitations of my equipment. So
yeah.
So
that's the answer right there. Is a custom mash tun.
That certainly would help. Yeah,
yep.
And that may be in my future at some point too.
Yeah. Very good.
All right.
You ready for here's lesson number 2. Public service announcement number 2. Watch your health. And don't brew beer on a day that you're having food poisoning.
What? When did you do this?
Oh, you don't recall?
I don't. Why don't I recall this?
Okay, all right. This was back in 2016. We were at brewing location number 2, which was George's last house here in Illinois. This was one of our first brew days in the newly found brewing garage. We had a number of friends over to brew a Scotch ale. It was a Sunday in February. We had somewhat adequate heat, but the weather had gotten to me, and I was a train wreck of health that day. I couldn't stay near the operation long enough to be any sort of contributor, to the point that by the time that the sparge was completed, George just pulled me aside and said, "Hey, man, you're clearly not hanging on. Why don't you pack up and head home?" So I did, this. And I nursed myself back to health, and that was that. So George Georgia fortunately had some other friends on hand and was able to soldier on and finish the brew day. But oh man, that was not one of my finer adult moments. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, you just wanted to brew so bad. You're like, damn my health. I will you do it
You know what?
anyway.
That's a part of it because you and I had not missed a monthly brew day in more than 2 years at that point. And I mean, at that point, like there was little to nothing that was going to keep me from a brew day. I mean, I'm still kind of that way. I'm not, so I guess to a certain extent that hasn't changed, but that's a lesson for everybody. Listen, don't sacrifice your health. Plan your brew days ahead of time, and if you get sick a couple days in advance, get yourself healthy, and then get on your brew day.
Absolutely.
But don't sacrifice your brew day. Because don't forget we got to keep in mind what's important here,
Right.
And the brew day is important.
Absolutely. So, oh man, yeah. No,
What else about that? Was there anything about that day that stood out?
Oh well, now I definitely remember that, and so I believe there was a new style that we were doing too. So we weren't quite sure about it. So I was trying to juggle you and the new style and the people that were there that wanted to help but were unfamiliar with the process and things, and so it turned into a little bit of a busy day for me. But yeah, I do remember that. Yeah. Oh man. So, my next one is kind of on the same realm of pay attention to your body, but has to do with the perils of brewing alone.
I think I know where you're going with this, and I'm looking forward to it.
Because we say, and rightfully so, that it takes a lot of good beer to make great beer. The trouble is when you're brewing alone and you're having a lot of good beer and making great beer, if you wake up the next morning and you don't remember the last 30 minutes of your brew day, that's a problem. And that's what I kind of ran into.
Oh,
I called Jason about when I was in
he did.
I don't remember most of that conversation, but I remember I was just hammered on my porter and finished my brew day somehow successfully, did not burn my place down, and got everything into the fermenter. So obviously I've been doing this long enough that my body was on autopilot and knew what it was doing.
Mm-hmm.
But that was not something I want to recreate. And I have since then been much more careful about how much good beer I consume while I'm making great beer.
I don't recall offhand how long you and I stayed on the phone. I think it was a pretty long while.
It was a little while, yeah. I remember parts of the conversation, and we had a good, but were you keeping me on the phone so you could keep an eye on me, or
No, I mean it was going by naturally, and for somebody who was intoxicated, you held up pretty damn well. You weren't here. I was not hearing your voice and being like, "Whoa, man, George is off his rocker." No, it's like you were. Yeah, you could tell you had a few, but you were holding your own just fine.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear.
But I remember hearing from your wife shortly after we cut the call off, and she was like, "He is so drunk." Okay. And is this my fault?
No, not your fault at all, sir, but absolutely true. So, yeah.
I think I was just doing chores around my house that whole time. I think Candy was here with me too.
Yeah, I think so. So, yeah. So I think I titled this one wrong because in the live stream I said odd brew day stories. I should have called this A Nice Place to Brew's Cautionary Tales.
Cautionary Tales. I said a couple shows ago about a segment called "Learn from Jason's Mistakes."
Well, yeah.
I guess this could partially fit in with that.
Well, it's Jason and George's mistakes, man. I'll tell you what. So,
What were you? Okay, you said you were drunk on your porter, but
uh-huh.
what was it that you were making that day?
Oh, the Brute.
That was okay. That was the brew day.
Yeah,
Okay,
that was the
okay.
Brute Brew Day, which is
Wow.
amazing that it came out the way it did because there was so many different additions in that Brute recipe. Because I think I did, and I wish I had the spider when I did that one. Holy crap! But that was, I think, 4 or 5 different separate editions of
Oh
hops.
my God.
Yeah, it was
60-minute boil?
It was that 60 or 90 minute? Might have even been 90 minutes because I think there was some pills and hops in there.
Oh, okay. Pills and malts, you mean?
Yes, sorry, yeah, pills and malts.
Okay.
Yeah. So that might have been a 90-minute boil, but I definitely did a bunch of work on that one that should not have worked out the way that it did. But
Nice.
Lucky, fortunate me, and
Yeah.
now I watch my situation a little bit better.
Listen, a great man once said, "Everything in moderation,
Yeah.
including moderation."
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
There you go. You had your moment.
I did have my moment, yeah. So, all right. What about you, sir?
All right. Third brew day evolution. We're taking a trip to Virginia.
Oh,
Not to George's brew house, but to George's porch for George's first Virginia brew day,
okay.
which was new for George, new for me, and was a whole new experience for both of us, start to finish. Equipment wise, environment wise, everything. Couple things that stand out. Number one, it was like 105 degrees that day.
Oh, stupid.
It was
hot.
oppressively hot. Oppressively hot. Second of all, George had the idea, one that he carries through today, is that he replaced part of his heating source with a sous vide.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first time with that.
Yep.
Lesson learned, sous vide is not a quick way to heat up a liquid.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great way to maintain heat, but create heat, not so much. Lesson learned.
Yeah.
New mash tun, new hot liquor tank, new everything.
Mm-hmm.
No. And I could not have been happier that I got to participate in that.
Yeah, no, it was really nice having you there to do the first run of it, and that was a fun day.
All the equipment came together just within those couple of days I was out there.
Yeah, it did. We went out to the brew shop. I spent way too much money getting spun up, and we got to experiment with some new things. And that's the first time that I actually used a conical fermenter too. Because remember, I got the fast ferment.
Yeah,
at that same time.
Right. Because all the carboys are now here.
Right, all the carboys stayed with you, so
Yeah.
I got the conical fast ferment, and have since gone to the catalyst since then. But that's the first time I used a conical. That's the first time I used the sous vide, and all that stuff. And so there's been a lot of evolution, based on those different things. But you're right, especially a 900-watt sous vide system like I have.
Yeah.
You can't depend on that to take it from groundwater temperature to, strike water temperature in a good amount of time.
But to maintain temperature, it's very useful.
To maintain temperature, to get it to the exact temperature that you want it to be, awesome.
Yeah.
But, you got to get it within a couple degrees so it can do that efficiently.
Yep.
Yeah.
I need to jump on one of those too. It just makes so much sense. And you're clearly having good efficiency brew days using that.
I'm doing all right. Yeah, I think I need to make some adjustments to my profile a little bit when it comes to the mash tun, because I think I can get my efficiencies. My efficiencies are usually about 69-70%. I think I can
for a
bump it up.
setup. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah, it's not bad. I think I can bump it up a little bit more. Maybe with a custom mash tun or something like that. But I
Yeah.
think understanding the temperatures a little bit more precisely.
Yeah.
That I think that's but yeah, I mean it's been going well. So yeah, that I mean I don't know if that's a cautionary tale other than don't depend on a sous vide, but that was a fun brew day.
It
And
was.
you remember I ended up routing the hose out through my laundry room window and
Oh
hooked up.
yeah, I
Yeah,
forgot about that.
hooked. So the hose going in, the water in my immersion chiller actually came. I unhooked the hose line coming to my washing machine and hooked it up to that and ran it out the window so we could get to the immersion chiller. Yeah, that was a fun brew day.
It was. It was. And now
Uh,
George has since built his now famous brew shed.
as you can see behind me.
Yes, exactly. And process is smoothed out, and he's got everything he needs just right there in the shed for a start to finish brew day.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. All right. I got a couple of close calls. Do you have some extras that you had just kind of bullet pointed?
Well, let's see. I still have that. I still have a third one, but you kind of stole
Oh,
mine. So yeah, you see,
crap.
we
Floor is yours.
well, we had the same first one, so technically I owe you a third one
Okay.
here.
Bring it on.
But before I do that, let me not party foul again. This was actually pretty good.
Okay.
You wouldn't think an IPA with sweetness is something that you would really go for. But it kind of has like that sweet bitter balance a little bit, and I have a couple cans of this, and I think I'm okay with having a couple cans of this in the house. So
What's the ABV on that?
ABV 7%.
Okay.
So it's
All right.
just north of sessionable. But comes in 12-ounce cans, so that's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And while we're taking a break here between these, let me crack open this sake style saison, which I recently found out from a brewery that I went to yesterday in town called Old House. And they had a saison on the menu, and they had it listed as a saison. And apparently people around here are unfamiliar with that term, and it just was not selling. So they
So
sent
is the only term farmhouse ale? Does
they
everything default to that?
Yeah, so they changed it to a farm ale. All of a sudden, it's flying off the shelf, and that's
I guess that makes sense. If you knew the
yeah,
area that George lives, you'd say that's fitting.
yeah. So all right, so this is Stillwater Extra Dry Sake Style Saison Ale, brewed and canned by Stillwater Artisanal in Stafford, Connecticut.
You want to do
And
a brew review while I go and get my second beer?
sure.
All right.
All right, so this is 4.2% of alcohol by volume. It's supposed to be a dry saison style, and I don't see a IBUs on here. But again, with the saison, I'm assuming it's going to be fairly low. So let me give it a shot, see how it tastes. So if you're familiar with rice wine or sake, you kind of have a really dry, kind of typically fairly hot alcohol that will, you know, kind of mimic a champagne feel a little bit. And so they did a good job of simulating that, of having that be in there. And I'm guessing the final gravity on this guy was like 1 or even like 0.09 or something like that. And so because it's really dry, but it does have a little bit of saison notes of spiciness and yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting beer and not the first combination I would have thought of. They do make special note here that the ingredients include water, malted barley, as we would typically expect, hops, yeast, and sake rice. So they actually use sake rice I'm guessing in the mash to add a little bit of extra starches and proteins and I'm guessing that's going to produce some really fermentable sugars here. So, to be perfectly honest, I kind of like it. And I think I might try to simulate this myself. I was just saying, Jason, that they actually use sake rice in the recipe. And that I think is interesting we've used rice hulls, but we've never actually used rice in our recipe. Now I know like Miller Lite and those guys do, but that's mostly as kind of a filler. But this is specifically sake rice, and so yeah.
I don't think there's any sugars that you're going to you're going to be taken out of rice. It's going to add
Oh,
to
I think
pretty well
so.
gravity, is there?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that like Miller and those guys use rice in their recipes.
Well, it might just be to smooth. It might be just to smooth out the lautering,
Might be.
like rice hulls. Maybe
Well,
I'm wrong. I mean, yeah, I'm in the same boat. I've never used.
yeah, but no,
never
I was
used
saying
rice.
that this one is definitely really dry. It's got kind of a champagne quality to it with the sake flavor notes. I mean, not sorry, the saison flavor notes. So it's kind of like if I had to reclassify it a little bit, I'd say it's kind of a brute saison, which I know is kind of a strange thing to
Okay,
say.
that sounds really good.
Yeah, I honestly,
that really does.
I think it is pretty good. Yeah.
I missed. Where is this brewed from?
So this is Stillwater Brewing out of Connecticut, Stratford, Connecticut.
Okay.
Yeah.
My second beer. Yes, this is a 2-beer podcast. I have a mystery beer in front of me, but I purposely selected the darkest beer that I could find in an unlabeled bottle.
Oh, so is it a homebrew or is it a?
It's a homebrew. Yep.
Okay.
And
All
sure
right.
enough, yes, I'm pouring a stout. I think this is my big and dark beer from this past year.
Okay.
Oh man.
Let's see it. Oh wow! Look at that.
Poured beautifully.
I did. Look at that. That's got like good 2-finger head on it. That's yeah.
Man, this has been in a bottle a while too. Oh man, I wish I had more of these. Oh, George, I wish you were here for this.
Is that your last bottle?
Probably.
Yeah.
That beer is fantastic, and wow, has that held up well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So hey, I meant to ask you because I since we talked last, I have my American Pale Ale cold crashing.
Yeah.
And so what did your final gravity come out to in your version?
10-12.
Okay, mine came out a little drier than that.
Okay.
Came out around 10:05.
You went all the way down to 10:05?
I did. So I think that actually, I mean, that's going to be very interesting to compare snow globes because
they're going to be really different. That's really different.
Yeah. So I'm kind of excited to see how that turns out.
How did you get that all the way down to 10:05?
I did the smack pack. I let it do its thing, and did the starter. I pitched that. I don't know if I just gave the yeast all of the advantages it could take in order to, be able to have it, to ferment that down. I don't know if it was the slightly higher temperature. I don't know, but it really dried it out quite a bit.
You did not use glucoamylase.
I did not. Okay. Nope. Just firm cap. I just put firm cap in.
So you had about a 90% attenuation, though.
Yeah.
I didn't even think the yeast was that efficient.
Let's see. the yeast
was 1056.
1056, right?
Yeah.
Let's see what the attenuation percentage on that is. I've been reading I told you that for Christmas I got all 4 of the
Oh yeah, the water
um,
malt, hops, and yeast.
all 4
Yeah.
of those books. I've been reading the yeast and reading
Right.
about like
Right.
what the different things are for like flocculation and things like that.
Yeah.
So it says attenuation is 73 to 77.
So that's not 90.
It's not 90. I don't know what happened. I really don't. I just know that it really I told you it was a super aggressive fermentation when it kicked off.
Mine was too. I mean, I had probably 3 inches of krausen.
Yeah, with you not using firm cap,
Oh, that's right. You were using firm cap. Yeah.
yeah, but I'm super surprised you didn't blow your
Well,
airlock.
I lost a fair amount of volume just from the trub removals.
Oh, that's right.
Remember we talked?
Yeah,
If I
we did
hadn't
talk
done
about that.
those, I would have blown off. You're right.
Yeah. I would definitely and actually I think I'm going to run an experiment next time and put a few drops of firm cap in as I'm approaching hop break and see what that does. Because I've heard the same thing you do. I've heard that, firm cap as it starts to boil, it denatures, but it can really help with your hop break.
Okay. Do
So
you
I want to test that out.
do you have your firm cap around?
In the house, yeah.
Oh, it's in the house. Oh, okay. Because I'm drawn. I mean, I can look it up, but I don't even recall what the bottle looks like or how big it is. Or
It's just a little guy that I have.
Oh.
They make bigger
Oh.
ones, but you only need 3 drops per gallon for the in the
geez.
fermenter.
Okay.
So it'll last for a while. That I have it's just a little eyedropper kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Easy enough. Stories. We all good?
I think so. Yeah. Did you?
All
You
right.
said you had a few runners up.
I had some close. I'm calling these close calls.
Okay.
Because we talked. I had to boil down to 3. Those were the standout 3, and I thought they were most worthy of the show. I had 3 close calls, and one of them we already talked about. George's drunken phone call will
jeez.
go down as is one of the more memorable brewing episodes I've ever had, and you have ever had. We're going to be talking about this for a long time.
I think so too. Yeah.
That's one. Here's another drunken brew day, and this involved both of us. But if you remember from the first brewing location, you and I in the late summertime were brewing a autumn stout on your back porch, and we had a keg of triple that was available to us the whole brew day.
We put ice.
God,
we put ice in the bottom of the
Yes.
cooler, right? And
Yep.
put it in. Yep. I remember that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. So much. So much.
Yeah, because with our
that was another episode. That was another brew day where we were both on autopilot by the end. Like we soldiered on, but we were both plowed.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you remember that I actually haven't brewed it in a little while. I need to take a run at our triple, just because it's so iconic.
It's been a staple. Yeah, it's a staple.
It's been a staple. Yeah, exactly. But and now that I think about it, I'd be really interested to see how much better I can make it, and honestly, that you could make it now that we know so much more than we did.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
You know what? I think our next dual brew day is going to have to be the triple. Now that we're talking about this, that seems very fitting.
And
all right,
but
it's on.
I can tell you, like, we were super aggressive because we put like almost a pound of what was it? Sugar. What kind of sugar is that?
Well, we always use
candy sugar. Yeah, the candy sugar. Almost a pound of candy sugar in there. So by the time it was done, it was what, like 10% alcohol.
Oh yeah.
So we're sitting there just pouring off a keg,
glass after glass of 10%
glass after glass.
Belgian triple.
Oh man. Yeah.
I mean, I remember it was a Sunday that we brewed that. I went to work and I felt like hell.
Yeah.
Oh man, and I
Uh,
mean, listen, I mean, we brew early typically. Like if
mhm.
I'm still feeling the effects the following morning, that says something.
It does say something. Yeah, it says quite a bit.
Yeah,
I will also say, so we're telling stories here. This isn't necessarily a brew day story, although it used some of our brewing equipment. Jason every year gets a. I can already see him smiling. He knows
I love
exactly where
this.
I'm going.
I totally do, and I love it. The floor is yours.
Every year he gets a turkey from his company, and because they're traditional like that. And so one year we decided we were going to deep fry us a turkey.
Yeah.
And he brought it over, and I put it in a nice salt brine for a while, got it out, got it all nice and dry and everything. And so we were safe. We were out on my concrete patio outside, and we got all that oil up to a good temperature. And we very carefully put this turkey in, and it cooked perfectly fine. Like everything was going textbook until we realized we didn't know how to get this turkey out of the oil. So there I am with a giant serving fork and a serving spoon. I'm putting the serving spoon inside the cavity, spearing the turkey with the serving fork,
And
and
I
pulling.
had a cutting board that I just had to maneuver underneath it so we could lift it out.
So I'm lifting this turkey out, pouring the oil out of the turkey,
Yes.
trying not to burn myself or tip it over and catch everything on fire or anything
Knowing, of
like that.
course, what boiling oil does.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah.
And so we get this out, we put it on the cutting board, we take it inside, everything's fine. And we're telling the story, and my wife just looks at us and goes, "You guys are morons." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, you're absolutely right." Oh,
And the
man.
turkey was amazing.
It really was. It was so
Yeah.
juicy. Yeah,
Yep.
I would definitely deep fry a turkey again, but it
I've done it.
was.
I've done it twice since
Have you?
that day. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, the last
Yeah.
2 Thanksgivings, I've done. I bought a special pot, so I'm not anymore using the pot that I used to make beer with.
Okay.
It's. I mean, little tip for anybody who's deep frying turkeys. It's by far easier if you have a narrow pot, so you don't have to use as much oil to get to a high point in the pot where you can submerge a turkey, because you're going to have to do that in order for the turkey to cook. You're going to have to submerge it entirely.
Right.
So a narrow pot's the way to go. So anyways, I got a pot just for that. I mean, it goes, I mean, provided that you have the necessary tools to remove the turkey as well as put in the turkey, you're pretty much good.
Well, now I do.
Yeah, there you go.
But that didn't help us then.
There's a couple of catches with the overall process. The first one is you got to heat up cooking or peanut oil to 350 degrees, which takes a fair amount of time.
It does.
But that's the longest process. I mean, once you submerge the turkey, the thing's done in like 45 minutes. That's
right.
about it.
So, cooking a typical turkey takes what, like 3-4 hours if you just shove it in the oven?
4+.
4+, yeah, because it's like hours, like minute. I think it's like 20 minutes per pound or something stupid like that.
Something like that.
But so in a deep fryer, it takes like no time at all. And but I think the last time I did a turkey, we actually did a turkey breast, and a good sized turkey breast, and I smoked it. And
oh yeah, I remember.
Let me tell you, if you have the option to do that, that's another really good way to do turkey. Yeah.
Ooh, that might be my challenge this year. I like that idea.
Yeah, I think I might do that again. So, what other close calls do you got?
You got one more.
Okay.
And the fact that I'm drinking my stout right now, this story is all the more fitting. And I would have tell a story about my brew day where I made this. And I think I've told this story on this show before, but it's worth repeating. I brewed a 3.5 to 4 gallon batch of this beer. I had to scale down the recipe for the same reason that George talked about mash tun limitations earlier. So anyways, I thought I had sufficient headspace in my fermenter, only to wake up the next morning and found out that that was not the case at all. I lost a gallon of blow off.
Oh no.
Of blow off. That's how much blow off. Yeah, I lost. You talk about trub loss. You talk about water loss from a mash, which you're going to have every time. But just picture losing a full gallon through the top of your fermenter.
What were you blowing off into?
I was blowing off into I don't know if it's just a little Gatorade cooler, it was a cylinder cooler about, can't see
Okay.
that. Yeah, about that long. Just
did
with
you
a
have enough
little
to
screw top.
Did you have enough to
screw
actually
top.
like contain that gallon, or was it like spilling out over?
No, it was spilling out. That's where the gallon was.
Oh, geez.
Now, I mean, that was my go-to just blow off area, and it had worked for every other beer I'd made up until that point, but I wasn't making beers that were 10% alcohol like this one right here. So,
yeah.
Case in point, you got to leave headspace when you're making a 10% beer.
Oh man, yeah, no,
Everything
for sure.
else, everything else in that Brewday went perfectly. Like my target original gravity was 1.1. I nailed it right on the dot. Got my yeast starter, had all that going. Just didn't account for the headspace properly.
Wow. Yeah.
Boy, that was a fun cleanup. I didn't have I didn't have bugs. That's the one thing that I can be happy about.
That's good.
Yeah, but all that sugar certainly could do it.
So you had another situation similar to that with, was it mead?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah. So, George and I's first foray into mead making. We made a strawberry mead here in my kitchen. We mixed it. We blended a bunch of strawberries, blended a bunch of honey. Didn't properly account for the fact that all of strawberry sugar was fermentable. So we put together just this, this sugar bomb of strawberries and honey, and dumped a packet of yeast into it, and then went out for dinner. Got back to my house just on my own, 2.5, 3 hours later, something like that. And my kitchen is in just disarray. I've got liquid everywhere, and then in a different growler, I can see just the krausen that's being produced is going in an upward direction, and I see how small the tube is. I got a much bigger disaster coming to me, and I'm like, okay, call George. George, I got a little brewing emergency. Fortunately, George lived 5 minutes down the road. He was there in less than 10 minutes with some 3/8 tubing and an area to blow off, and problem solved.
Yeah, we converted an airlock into a blow off.
Yep.
I remember that. And then, and that actually I was able to do that because that actually happened with a triple that we made in my basement.
Oh yeah,
that blew out the same way. Yeah,
you learned what a blow off was by necessity.
Oh yeah,
because you had a beer that was about to blow up your basement, and you're like, okay, how do I get around this? And you found out just through trial and error.
Yeah, if you take the cap off of an airlock and you take that little bobber out, the little float that allows the CO2 to come out. If you take that out and you shove a 3/8 line on top of the post that's in there, you can run that to a growler or something that you can submerge in liquid. You could submerge that line in liquid and create a blow off out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I had to do in both of those situations to basically simulate. After that, I went out and bought a couple blow off caps for our carboys, and we started using blow offs. But yeah, that was definitely a trip.
Sure was.
Yeah.
Was. I'll tell you. I remember we drank that mead a handful of times, And I remember specifically taking that to one of our homebrew clubs, the Downers Grove group, and they just said, "This is the most high alcohol mead I've ever had."
Yeah, we definitely
Because
should take.
Because I'll tell you, I mean, there's a lot of home brewers that that also dabble in mead making, and I've made a couple batches of mead since then. There's a lot of different ways to make mead, and there's a lot of different varieties that you can explore. We chose the high alcohol.
We did.
The high alcohol one. I mean, obviously, I mean, case in point now, if you want to put strawberry flavor into a mead, there's ways to do that other than blending strawberries and just making this fermentable sugar base that you're going to dump yeast into. Yeah, I mean, the way to do that really is through secondary.
Right, exactly. Take what is that that you put in wine? Is it that phosphorus?
Potassium sorbate.
Potassium sorbate. You put that in, and then you can back sweeten with some strawberries or something like that, and be able to have those flavors without turning all of that into fermentable sugars.
Because what the potassium sorbate does is it kills off all the wild yeast, so you
It's
don't
a
have the
preservative.
It's a preservative, yeah. So you're not going to have the opportunity to re-ferment, which absent of that is exactly what would happen, because yeast is not just a one-time thing. If yeast settles down to the bottom and then you reintroduce more sugar into a liquid, what's going to happen? That yeast is going to wake up and you got fermentation again.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
the way around that is potassium sorbate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
anyways, lesson learned.
yeah.
All right,
right.
that's my last close call.
All
Trying to
right.
think last minute, but if there's anything else that really stands out. But we covered a lot of ground here.
We did. Yeah, a lot of cautionary tales.
Cautionary tales.
I
Yeah.
feel like we have like the Brothers Grimm. Like we could write stories. Like
Oh my God!
proverbs.
Yes, we
Yeah.
could. Totally. Heck, I mean, we're 5 years into this hobby now. So
Yeah.
one brew day per month times 5 years. That's a track record.
That's track
You
record.
you
Yeah,
got
for
some
sure.
miles under you. So
Yeah.
that just comes with it.
So what did we learn this time around? Check your equipment. Make sure you don't get too drunk. Miller High Life is not the best domestic beer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Watch your health.
Watch your health. Yeah.
Don't get hurt.
Don't get hurt.
Don't use a sous vide to get to mash temperatures.
Right. Yeah. So.
And don't brew when it's 20 degrees outside.
So don't say we never taught you anything.
Yeah. Lessons learned from a nice place to brew. I got a trivia question.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay.
And this is a music-related question. And I'm going to my favorite style of music, which is, of course, heavy metal, just where my heart is. So, which of the following heavy metal bands have not been a part of a craft brewery? That's the question. You're going to have 4 choices.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, the question is not which of these metal bands has been a part of a craft brewery. It's which of those has not been. So, yes, 3 of the 4 choices I'm going to give have a beer on the market. So here you go.
Okay.
Is it A, Metallica, B, Iron Maiden, C, Megadeth, or D? Wait for it. Nickelback.
Bon Jovi. No.
I didn't look up Bon Jovi. I totally should have.
I can tell you right now he has been involved with
is
breweries.
that true?
Yeah.
I honestly don't know.
Yeah, no, I can tell you that he has been, and restaurants. So that would not be. Yeah. That's a little shout out to the Metal Monkey crew right there.
Yeah.
Wow, this one. I mean, Nickelback's douchey enough that I think they probably have.
Okay.
And you don't honestly classify them as metal, do you?
I don't know. No, I mean, you know,
Okay, we're gonna set that one aside because I feel like you
we'll
just
come back to it.
somebody's gonna
We'll
pull
come
your
back.
metal. Somebody's
We'll,
gonna pull your metal card if you say yes to that. So,
we'll come back to it.
all right. This is a little bit of stab in the dark, but I'm gonna say Megadeth.
Okay. Final answer.
Final answer.
Okay. All right. To go back to your earlier comment about Nickelback, Nickelback is first off not a metal band,
Okay, thank you.
and second of all, is not part of a craft brewery. So you're wrong.
Okay, all right. So I'm
Yes,
wrong.
the answer is D.
All right.
Nickelback does not have a beer on the market and is not part of a craft brewery.
Okay.
So let's go through these. A, Metallica. Metallica has a collaboration with Stone Brewing out of California. They have a beer on the market called Enter Night. And
Okay.
oh geez, I thought I had the style written down.
I'm guessing it's going to be like a stout or something like that.
One would think.
Yeah, let's. I can look that up.
I don't have that written down.
I can look that up.
Okay.
Is it a Pilsner? Enter Night Pilsner. It's a Pilsner.
It's a Pilsner. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Choice. Okay. All right.
So, okay.
Okay. Next one. Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden not only has a beer on the market, they have an entire product line on the market under the trade name Trooper, which is one of their most recognizable songs. So they have a partnership with Robertson's Brewery out of the UK, and I mean, go through every major style. There's an Iron Maiden Trooper beer out there.
Okay.
Yeah, they got a full website. Check it. It's actually a pretty impressive website. It's well worth going to. So Google search Iron Maiden Trooper beer. And last we come to Megadeth. Now, I'm gonna give a little history about Megadeth because Megadeth's founder Dave Mustaine has had an on-off relationship with sobriety for the last 30 years. Apparently, Dave Mustaine is off his sobriety bandwagon once again. Apparently, because he now has a collaboration with a brewery called Unibrow Brewery out of Quebec, Canada, and he has a Belgian saison under the name A Tout Le Monde, which is one of his recognizable less fast songs.
Okay.
It's actually one of Megadeth's better songs too. If you type in A Tout Le Monde, it's pretty good.
Well, now you got my head spinning here. Is Megadeth Canadian?
No.
Okay.
No,
all right.
they're from San Francisco.
Okay.
Nickelback
Huh.
got nothing here because they're not part of craft beer.
Well, maybe they're douchey enough to not be a part of craft beer. You know? So, okay, I got another question for you. So, this shouldn't surprise you, but Kiss has a beer. They call it Kiss.
Shocking. Yes.
Shocking. Yes, they're in
they do.
everything. Yeah. So, but I think that's kind of on the edge here. Do you consider Kiss to fall into that metal category, or are they just rock?
Good question. Okay. Let the audience simmer on that for a second. Okay, my answer to that is no. They're not.
Okay.
Kiss does not fall into the metal category. I make my distinction between hard rock and metal to be a lot of the symphonic influences. And if you have, some defined leads in your songs, I think that's one of the defining characteristics of metal versus hard rock.
Okay.
Kiss doesn't have those. So I think, listen, I like, I'm not a full-fledged member of the Kiss Army, but I did just see Kiss in concert 2 months ago, and I like Kiss.
Yeah, no, they're always fun to watch.
Yeah. It was great. It was, I'm glad I, had the experience of seeing them before they supposedly retire. I know they've had like a dozen different farewell tours, and this is just another one of those. So
Gene Simmons is going to drop dead. I think the poll that should happen is which stage he drops dead on, not when.
And my thought on that is, listen, if you really don't want to call it quits, then don't.
Then don't.
If that's what you want to do, if you want to play till you drop, then that's fine.
Yeah.
Trust me, a band like Kiss, people will keep coming until that last show where one of the founding members drops. It's gonna happen. Plain and simple.
What I think is amazing is that they've managed to stay together as long as they have, especially with the personalities that are in there. You know?
Well, there's only 2 founding members that are left in the band.
Oh yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah,
That
Gene
makes
and
a little,
Paul,
yeah.
and then their lead guitar player has only been around a couple of years, and the drummer too.
Okay, all right, that makes more sense. Yeah.
That's a whole nother Springer story. If you look at Kiss's history with their original drummer and their original lead guitarist.
Did you just reference Jerry Springer?
Yes. It's a Springer story. And trust me, if you look up the story, it's fitting.
I imagine.
Believe me, it's fitting.
Yeah, I imagine. Yeah.
I got one other thing I want to point out about this same musical topic.
Okay.
So we're going to veer away from metal for a second, and there's a number of different musicians outside of metal that have dipped their hand into craft brewery as well. And one of those groups who's done so, you'll appreciate this, is a little group from Oklahoma called Hanson.
Hanson? Oh,
Hanson,
geez, okay.
yes. Going way back to the late 90s. Yes, they were 14, 15 years old. They came out and had a huge hit song at that time called Bop, which every teenager was singing throughout, the summer when that came out. It was the runaway hit of the year. They were on MTV every 5 minutes, on every magazine, all that. Hanson, obviously is not the same profile as they were to that point, but they've stayed together. They continue to make music, and they've actually, held up surprisingly well. They haven't gotten into trouble. They haven't had their stint in rehab. They don't have baby mamas all over the country, and any
that
of
you know of.
Maybe you're right. They seem like they have their shit pretty well together, and I tip my hat to them for that. But anyways, Hanson has a beer out in the market, and it's called Hops.
Oh, geez. Of course
Yes.
It is. Okay.
Which I have not had, but they did take some promo pictures online. Are you typing this in right now?
I am. Yeah, I got
Okay.
Hops. All right. Yeah, I see it. All right. Hanson Brothers beer. So is it actually like they actually have a brewery?
I don't think so. I think they just I think they partnered with a brewery and just put their name on one of the beers. That's what I think. Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay, because like the website for it is hansonbrothersbeer.com.
So does it reference a different brewery on it?
So Hanson Brothers Beer is a small beer business based out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, founded by the three brothers. So it seems like
so it's their own brewery.
It's their own brewery.
Oh my god! Look at that.
Yeah, good on them.
Yeah.
And yeah, Hops seems to be maybe the only one that they make. What's odd is like, okay, so most beer websites you go to, one of the things in the menu is what beers, but they don't have that. They have home news, retailers, about, and contact, and that's it. So that leads me to believe that they make hops, and that's it.
Okay. And do they have the style? Is it an American
it's a pale ale? Yeah,
it's a pale ale. Okay.
So now I'm looking up Untapped here. Hops. I feel so strange typing that in.
Especially when we just got done talking about Iron Maiden and Megadeth and Metallica.
And now we're on
now we're doing a deep dive on Hanson.
Yeah, okay. So on Untapped, they actually have a rating of, I just saw it, 3.2.
Okay.
So that's kind of good, not great, Let's see what else it says about it. It's an apparently awarded a gold medal from the Beverage Tasting Institute in 2014. It's a malt-forward English-style pale ale, combining English and American grains with both bread and caramel notes, completed by a unique blend of American hops, which provide a mild fruit overtone and a complex hoppy finish. Is the description on Untapped.
Award-winning in 2014.
Hmm.
Huh. Interesting.
And when I look up Hanson Brothers Beer Company on Untapped as a brewery, it looks like they may have some other things, but hops is basically the primary one that they. Then they have 9 beers attributed to them.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but all the other ones seem to be kind of one shots or seasonals. That seems
Yeah.
to be their
That's their
main
staple.
bread and
That's their
butter.
staple.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Well,
So
named after their biggest hit song, so I guess it's fitting. All right.
yeah. Well, I tell you what. Now I'm kind of
You
intrigued to
want to you
try
want
it.
you want to try some hops?
Why not? Right?
All right.
You know,
Sure.
I mean, it could be terrible, but
All right.
eh.
You know what we should do? We should put all these side by side. Maybe we should do that on the show. We'll try Enter Night. We'll try just one of Iron Maiden's like whole product lines. We'll have a
Okay.
Tulamon Megadeth's beer, and then we'll have hops
And Destroyer kisses Destroyer.
and kisses. Yeah, we can have that too.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll tell you what,
Okay.
I really like that idea.
Yeah, I think
Let's
that'd
do
be
that
fun.
on a future show. I
Okay.
mean, we can totally acquire these. They can totally.
Oh
be
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Even if it has to be, snow globe style, we'll
That's
get 'em.
fine. That's
Yeah,
fine. That
yeah,
can happen.
yeah. So
All right. All right, we're committing to it now. It's on the air. So
yeah, sounds good. So I found, where I found these two is at a place in Charlottesville called Beer Run, which actually is a
okay.
pretty good restaurant, and it has a really good selection of beers there. And I kind of teased this a little bit too, but one of the ones that was there was a blonde stout.
Oh, I've had one of those.
You've had,
Uh-huh.
I've talked with a couple people about this, and it just had absolutely no business calling itself a stout.
Oh,
But
okay.
I'll tell you what, it was because it was golden. It was
Oh,
just
yeah.
it had no business calling itself a stout in my mind. But it did have a really good flavor, and it had a very strong coffee presence, and it had been brewed with lactose and obviously a high final gravity, because
Okay.
it was kind of thick and sweet, and it had all those kind of elements. I just don't get the concept of a blonde stout. Do you?
I've had a couple examples of a blonde stout. The first one I had blew my mind.
Okay.
And it nailed it. Like if you drank this beer blindfolded, you would swear you were having a pint of Guinness. But then you look at the glass and you have this golden beer that has the only stout identifier would be just the head on it, because it had kind of that leftover stout head.
Right. Okay.
Now the one that you had, did it have that?
Yes, it did.
It did.
Yeah.
Okay. So what if you weren't getting a stout flavor from that, what did it taste like to you?
Um, it had the roasty, mostly coffee flavors to it.
Roasty, mostly coffee, and it still maintained the
Yeah, because
blonde color.
oh yeah, no, it definitely had a
Huh.
roasty flavor to it. So there's definitely some
Now-
roasted malts in there.
So
Um,
that's way different than what I had.
Yeah, and some of that I imagine was accentuated or added by the and I'm racking my brain right now trying to remember the name of it because I'm terrible at using Untapped. But it was probably added or accentuated by the coffee, but it was definitely on the roasty side of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to come up with the name of the brewery. I do remember it was out of California,
Okay.
but that's all I remember.
The brewery that I had mine in was here in the Midwest.
Was it? Okay.
As a matter of
Was
fact,
yours Weldworks.
Was that the brewery? No.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
Because that's a popular one. As I've been looking up blonde
Well-
stout, trying to figure out what the hell's going on with this.
Weldworks.
That's one that keeps coming up as Weldworks.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What else is in the variety pack? Or are we gonna have to wait for next shows to get to find out?
That I bought over at Beer Run, you mean?
Well, are you've had an interesting array of beers available here on the show. So obviously
Oh, yeah. So the other thing I picked up over at Beer Run, which is where I got these two, was our good old friend, the Cuvée from Hardywood, which is one of their peach triples aged in white wine barrels. I think it was a Cabernet Blanc barrel, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And I'm very much looking forward to trying that because that was our first impression of a beer aged in a wine barrel.
That was at your house that we drank that, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
And
I
that's
remember.
what, and
that was really good.
That and Orenda was what inspired our triple red wine that we
Yep.
did. Mhm.
Yep. That it was.
And that was very good. I remember that.
Yeah. Oh man.
But yeah,
No.
that was.
Oh, I wish I was there to try that.
Yeah.
Does it have a year on the bottle?
Oh, I think it's from this year.
From this year? Okay, so
Yeah.
it's an annual release. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's definitely an annual release. So yeah.
Speaking of that, at some point in the next couple of months, they are going to have their peach cobbler.
Mama's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have to
Something to
keep
look
an
out
eye
for.
out for that.
Uh-huh.
I know. I'll keep an
Yeah.
eye out.
All
Yeah.
right. Thank you.
I know that was one of the only ones that you almost gave a 5 out of
Yeah.
5 to. So.
Yeah. For good reason.
Mhm.
That beer was amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Anyways, we give all kinds of love to Hardywood on this show for good
We do.
reason. They're fantastic.
Yeah. So what do you?
Anyways,
So we're gonna be. Well, I mean, I'm not gonna be. I'm gonna be out of town for a little while.
he's going to
doing
be
some
visiting Mickey and Minnie.
Yeah, doing some vacation stuff,
Yeah.
and but we're going to be swinging back in May and probably doing at least an every other week thing. But we have both said that if the fancy should strike us, that we will fire up a live show, maybe do a podcast, and be be available to you guys. So we'll keep you abreast of what's going on there.
Yeah.
And but yeah, so what are you planning on brewing next? What's kind of on your decks?
You know what? It's not locked in right now. Let me take a
Okay.
look. And I had 2 brew days that were really close in time. I had 2 brew days in 1 month. So
Okay.
don't know if I have one on deck here.
I'm kind of in a similar situation. I have my Saison, and now I'm going to have my APA in kegs. So that's my keg space. So what I was thinking about doing was maybe doing a lager
Okay.
that I could stick in my Keyser, and I could have that lager for an amount of time.
For as long as you want.
Right. Yeah. At least until I had some keg space opened up.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I was thinking there. I don't think I was thinking like a Marzen, something a little bit lighter, like maybe a Pilsner or something like that.
Yeah. That's
Or
actually
a
a really good
Helles, I
idea.
think would be maybe a good idea. It's a
Ooh,
Helles,
we've
yeah.
never made a Helles before.
We haven't. Yeah,
would-
something a little hoppier.
And in time for summertime, that would be something fitting to make. That's a great idea.
Yeah. So
Man,
what about you?
I don't know.
Okay.
I like the idea of doing a lager.
Okay.
My space is pretty full right now because I've got a Marzen that's in secondary right now. It's cold crashed all the way down to its lagering temperature. I'm hoping that I can get some extra space that I can do some additional things with, but Old 47 is full. All my kegs are full.
Got to build that Keyser we talked about.
You know what? I'm looking very seriously into that. I've found a couple of fitting chest freezers that I think I can do some work on.
Okay.
I need to be a big boy and just take the plunge into it.
Pull the trigger, man.
Yeah. Finding a chest freezer is proven not to be very difficult.
No, you go out to like Craigslist or the Facebook Marketplace or something. They're all over the place.
So even short of drilling tap heads into one of those, I feel like with a temperature controller, I could immediately make use of one of those.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I definitely would not recommend drilling into the device itself.
Okay.
That's why I put the wood collar on mine, so I could drill through the wood collar.
So we're going
And-
to have a deeper conversation about that fact.
Okay.
Right there. I need to
All right,
better
cool.
understand that.
Yeah, because you drill through and you run the risk of what I ran into with my little refrigerator that I had, where I accidentally hit one of the coolant lines and all the Freon escaped. And there's really no way to refill that. So that became essentially useless at that point, unfortunately.
Huh.
So yeah, but I would definitely recommend building yourself a collar to put on your Keyser.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
And I want to prepare for that because I think I'm ready to make the plunge.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Are you this time next week? Will you be in the great state of Florida?
I will. This time next week, I will be there. And I
Should we
will
look
not.
for you? Should we look for you on the Florida Man Twitter page?
Hopefully not. If I show up there, it means something has gone horribly wrong.
Yes.
So, so I think I think I can try to do something with you maybe that second week of May. So you may see something from us then. But I'll definitely be back the week after that. So
We look forward to it. Again, this month has been so great. I've enjoyed every recording to no end. We don't have a firm timetable around May yet, and George has some things going on. I have some things going on, so it's going to be a full month. But the show is not going to. We're going to have a presence throughout May. There's no question about it. We're just not quite sure at this point what form that's going to take. But the best thing to do is keep close to us on social media. We'll keep the pages updated. We'll keep everyone apprised of where things are headed, and keep in touch with us that way.
absolutely.
All right.
Yeah. We enjoy hearing from you guys and getting ideas from you. We've come up with in April a number of different ideas. We've kind of been, trading ideas of what we should talk about on the podcast. But if there's something that you'd like to hear, let us know.
Absolutely.
We're open to different topics. You can try to play like Stump the Semi-Pros if you want to.
Of course.
Yeah,
that's a great idea for a show too.
Yeah, and
Stump the Semi-Pros.
We'll be happy to tackle whatever topics on home brewing or the brewing industry that you'd like us to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said. All right. One last time, check us out on social media: Facebook at Nice Place to Brew, Instagram at A Nice Place to Brew. Our Twitter page is A Nice Place to Brew, I believe.
Nice Place to Brew.
It is. It's Nice Place to Brew. Okay.
Yep.
Check us out on Twitter at Nice Place to Brew. Talk to George and keep in touch with us.
Yeah.
We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Yeah, and if you're not a fan of like the podcasting apps, you can always play our podcast through our website at aniceplacetobrew.com
or on SoundCloud.com.
Or on SoundCloud. So, yeah.
Very good.
All right.
All right. Let's close up.
All right. You want to say it?
Yeah.
All right.
It takes a lot of good beer to make great beer. Cheers.
Cheers. All right.